Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is a cutting I took. Probably a little bit of a misguided idea at the time or whatever, but this was a cutting I had taken with a saw. I had been so surprised at how well I could get these to root that I just went ahead and, you know, instead of putting it in a training pot, I put it in this thing here. It actually did really well for a little while, and then it just, I don't know, it just started kind of declining and getting selectively healthy, if you will. I mean, there's 5 good branches coming out of the top, a lot of good growth coming out of the top, and then this strong branch here, and then just a whole bunch of little spindly growth, you know, weak growth, I don't know how else to put it. It's all kind of leggy, there's like little dieback branches that are there, and I blame it a little bit on just the fact that I tried to put it in such a shallow pot right away, and then also I used it, you know, this was when I had, this is probably about 2 years old. I don't think I've ever done a video on this before. It might even be close to 3 years old, but it was a little while after I had initially got into the hobby that I realized I could take such large cuttings and have them take like this. So I'm thinking maybe 2.5 years old. But also about 6 months ago, I pulled it up out of there to see, you know, like just how pot bound it was and what the roots look like. And I noticed that ever since I broke that bond or whatever, that it's even gotten like a little selectively even less healthy. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim back this leggy growth up here, try to tame this back just a little bit. I don't know how well you guys can see. I do have it zoomed in pretty far since this is such a small tree, but there's actually some little fruit going in there. I don't really want to putting all of its energy there. I mean, that would help build some taper if I was planning on chopping or whatever, but I really didn't want to chop. I just kind of wanted to grow out of these little scars here that they have a little twin trunk going here. I'm going to prune it back right now, and then I'm just going to go ahead and hold on to this video for a little while, and then I'll repot it when it starts regaining its health again. This had the one strong branch and the one weak one. I'll just try to cut them off evenly there. This one you probably saw I cut off some lower growth, and it just really doesn't look good at all. I'm just going to cut it. There's also some really healthy buds right there. So what I might do is just cut that whole thing back and let it worry about that. Maybe it'll get a bud out there, maybe it won't, but I'll let it worry about putting the energy into there instead of having to try to expend energy out where it really wasn't doing any good. This guy I'll probably cut back the furthest I can see. Right in there is the beginning of where it's just starting to fruit a little bit. And so I'm going to cut that way back to there. And then up top, I'm going to try to leave maybe like 2 leaves on each one of these. Not too worried about the height. I'm going to take that one all the way out just so that that's another twin trunk part there or whatever, instead of, there's actually some fruit going on this one too. And then there's this bud there. And so I actually, you know, in my climate and everything, I'm under the impression I could probably go ahead and just repot it now, it'd be fine. But I've got in my head here that if I wait for it to start budding back out, it's actively pushing roots. And then when I go to repot it, it'll do a little better. So I'll just have to wait like a couple weeks and repot it then. All right, and here we are. It's June 10th. The first part of the video was from May 14th, so it's been just about a month. My idea always is when I do that is, you know, trim it back to almost nothing, let it start kind of leafing back out. And then the idea with the deciduous tree is that's when it's pushing its roots. And so I think the same for a tropical tree. It seems to have, you know, my thinking may not be, you know, 100% on the correct side or whatever, but at the same time, it's been working for me. And I haven't lost any trees yet or anything like that. They've all remained nice and healthy. When I go to put it in here, I think the main thing is it's been in here about 2.5 years. And I think the idea sometimes actually for me, I did water it today, but sometimes for me with a smaller pot like this is if it's in there and it's in good shape and you break that seal of where it was getting pot bound, it just kind of really never seals up again, especially this old soil that I used to use that has turfus in it or whatever. Seems to break down a little bit more than the other stuff does. I think nearly 3 years now, at least 2 years. And so it might be time for a freshen up anyway. All right, let's see what we've got here. So as I do this, here is, I said in that first part of the video that this was a, that I cut this. This was an original saw cutting that I just, had plopped right in the pot right there. And so what I'm trying to do is start from the cutting part out. Turfus really does break down. Breaks down and kind of turns a little like, kind of like peat does, where peat just kind of turns into a substance that doesn't fall right off the roots. But at the same time, it really has made for a very nice nabari. All right, when I started out, I had no real intention of bare rooting it because it was in decent substrate, but it was clogged in there pretty good. I would have liked to have hosed it off, but I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but it's pouring down rain out there. I held it under the edge of the roof for a second and washed most of that stuff off, and it's got an excellent root spread, but it does have two roots that I just can't, couldn't quite get to spread out just right. And so I went ahead and trimmed them off. We're gonna put it right back in the same pot. I've already got a little soil in there. And because it's so shallow, I'm gonna try to just kind of tuck it in a little bit even before I put more soil on top. And then just get some soil on top there. All right, and there we go. I'll put this in the semi-shade for a few days. I probably won't even put it in any deep shade or anything like that. Should be nice and healthy. Should just kind of keep right on going.